He remains silent. The fading sunlight spills across his chest, highlighting the neat lines of his suit, perfectly composed, just like his demeanor. His lips press into a thin line, unreadable, but his silence speaks louder than any words could. For a moment, it feels like the entire world has gone still, waiting for his response that never comes. Then, his voice finally breaks the quiet, calm but heavy with an undercurrent of disbelief. "And yet you want to have an affair with me." The words hang in the air between them, sharp and precise, cutting through the lingering tension like glass. The golden sky above them glows faintly, as if mirroring the heat of their confrontation. A faint smirk touches his lips, but it doesn't reach his eyes. "Well," he says coolly, "I am apparently as cold as stone in bed." He pauses, letting the weight of his own words settle before continuing, almost mockingly, "An impotent man and a cold piece of stone couldn't ask for a better match, right?" His tone drips with irony, detached, self-deprecating, yet laced with something darker, something bitterly amused. The wind stirs softly, carrying with it the fading warmth of the day. Leaves flutter around them, dancing in the orange glow of sunset. She stands frozen, her breath caught in her throat, eyes locked on him. The distance between them feels impossibly vast, though only a few steps apart. The world around them is quiet, save for the whisper of the breeze, a fragile calm before the storm that neither dares to break. A faint smirk plays across the man's lips, the corner of his mouth curving with amusement. His voice is low but laced with intrigue as he murmurs, "Interesting." The golden light of the afternoon glows softly behind him, painting the moment with a quiet tension. The woman stands frozen for a heartbeat, her eyes widening slightly. She can feel his gaze on her, sharp and unreadable. He speaks again, calmly but with authority. "Go on." Caught off guard, she hesitates, unsure whether to continue or retreat. Her lips part as if to respond, but no words come out. A bead of sweat glides down her cheek. "Ah," a silent exclamation of surprise. Her hands tense at her sides as the air between them thickens with unease and curiosity. Then, his tone shifts, playful, almost teasing. "Perhaps I'll consider whether I'll share a smoke," he says, pausing just long enough for her to look up. His next words fall like a spark in the quiet garden. "Or start an affair with you, Miss Soyoung." The leaves around them flutter gently, as if stirred by the audacity of his words. The man stands tall, confidence radiating from his well-tailored suit. In his hand, he holds a silver cigarette case, his expression calm yet deliberate. The dying sunlight catches his features as he looks at her with that same knowing smile, one that blurs the line between a challenge and an invitation. In the quiet afternoon light, the conversation began casually. One of them mentioned, "Nayoung's very studious and her older sister is an art museum curator, right?" The words carried a tone of admiration, as if they were recounting the achievements of a model family. The other person smiled warmly and replied, "Chairman G has raised his daughter well." The compliment seemed sincere, their faces calm and content as they spoke of the G family with respect. "He sure has," came the gentle agreement, "and more than anything, Nayoung and our son make such a lovely pair." The remark hung in the air like a hopeful wish for the future, filled with quiet satisfaction. Then, almost as an afterthought, the conversation shifted. "Oh, right," one of them said, recalling another piece of gossip. "Wasn't their oldest daughter getting engaged soon? Did you hear anything when you visited Chairman G's place?" The question was met with a soft clink of porcelain as a teacup touched its saucer. The answer came slowly, understated, but telling. "Not really." The simple reply, paired with the faint sound of tea being stirred, left a trace of subtle tension in the air, as though there was more left unsaid beneath the surface of their polite words. The young man sat in silence, his expression calm yet distant. The soft light from the room reflected off his neatly combed dark hair as he lowered his gaze. With quiet conviction, he muttered, "I'm sure it'll happen eventually." His words hung in the air, a fragile attempt at reassurance that couldn't quite hide the uncertainty behind them. He wrapped his fingers around the delicate porcelain teacup, feeling the warmth seep into his skin. The ornate golden patterns on the cup shimmered faintly under the light. "I was wondering why they called me home at such an odd hour," he thought, watching the faint ripples in his untouched tea. "Now I see why." Across from him sat a woman with neatly styled hair and a composed demeanor. Her tone carried both amusement and nostalgia as she said, "Young people these days are so strategic, even when it comes to love." Her words, though casual, carried the weight of observation, as if she were measuring the world that had long moved beyond her understanding. He remained quiet, his face unreadable as he stared at the tea between them. Little does she know, he thought grimly, that their engagement might be called off. The thought echoed in his mind like a secret he didn't yet have the courage to speak aloud. Under the fading glow of the setting sun, the man stood outside, his sharp features hardened by the weight of revelation. Before him, a woman looked up, her voice trembling, but steady enough to deliver the truth. "Ne Young is having an affair with my fiancé." The air grew heavy, and for a moment, even the golden light seemed to dim under the shadow of betrayal. The man stood in quiet contemplation, his arms crossed tightly against his chest as the truth sank in. The faint image of two figures, Dongseng and Naeong, lingered in his mind like a shadow he couldn't erase. His expression hardened, the weight of betrayal evident in his eyes. "So Dongseng is having an affair with Naeong, huh?" he thought, his inner voice calm yet laced with disbelief. The words hung heavy in his mind, echoing louder than he wanted them to. He let out a quiet sigh, his thoughts growing sharper as he reflected on Naeong's character. "I already had a rough idea of what kind of person Naeong is," he admitted to himself, a faint bitterness curling in his chest. "So, I'm not surprised." There was no shock left in him, only the dull confirmation of what he had long suspected. His mind drifted back to the past, to the days of high school when Dongseng had been a timid, unassuming boy. But judging from what he was like back in high school, he thought, narrowing his eyes, I never thought Dongseng had the guts to cheat. The realization was almost absurd to him. The Dongseng he remembered could barely stand up for himself. How could that same person now be entangled in an affair?
In a quiet classroom, bathed in afternoon light, two students sit side by side in their crisp school uniforms. One of them, Yeon-hyuk, is focused on his notes, pen in hand, his expression calm and distant. Beside him, his cheerful friend leans closer with a grin, asking, "Hey, Yeon-hyuk, want to meet up with girls after class today?" Yeon-hyuk doesn't even glance up. His mind is elsewhere, and a simple thought drifts through his head. He's so talkative. The thought continues in a quiet, almost defensive tone. Yeon-hyuk clarifies silently to himself, as if correcting any misunderstanding. "With my girlfriend, that is." It's a small statement, but one that hints at something deeper, a desire to distance himself from idle chatter, or maybe to remind himself of where his loyalties lie. Time passes, and the tone darkens. Now, in a moment of bitter reflection, Yeon-hyuk's thoughts reveal the turmoil beneath his calm exterior. A woman who's stiff as stone wants to start an affair with me, and the guy who used to act like he'd do anything for me back in high school is now cheating with my girlfriend. The words are heavy with disillusionment, of trust betrayed, and of how easily the past can twist into something cruel.
At the kitchen table, a woman with gentle but worried eyes gazes at the young man sitting across from her. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee fills the air, mingling with the faint sweetness of the cookies neatly arranged on a plate between them. Her expression shows both concern and frustration as she leans forward slightly, trying to reach him with her words. "Are you listening, Yenyak?" she asks softly, her tone carrying a mixture of patience and exasperation. But the young man's eyes seem distant, his thoughts clearly elsewhere. Breaking the heavy silence, Yenyak slowly rises from his seat, his chair scraping lightly against the floor. "I have a trial tomorrow, so I'll be heading back now," he says, his voice calm but detached. The teacups rattle faintly as he pushes his chair back, the unfinished conversation lingering in the air. His mother watches him stand, disappointment flickering in her eyes, while his father remains quietly seated, observing the scene without a word. The warmth of the family setting feels muted, overshadowed by the weight of unspoken emotions. As Yenyak leaves, his mother sighs, shaking her head slightly. "Already? Dear, look at him, running off just to avoid his mom's nagging?" she mutters, half annoyed and half concerned. Her husband chuckles softly, setting down his cup. "Let him be, honey. He's probably got a pile of documents to go over before the trial." His words carry quiet understanding, but the faint worry in his eyes suggests he shares his wife's concern that their son is carrying more than just the weight of his work. The young man speaks calmly, but with a teasing glint in his eyes as he turns to his father. "Father, you should take mother out on a date sometime and spend some quality time with her," he suggests, his tone half playful and half sincere. A faint smirk forms on his lips as he adds, "It seems like she likes me more than you recently." His words, though lighthearted, carry a sense of confidence and mischief, making the moment feel both humorous and affectionate. His father looks at him with a mixture of surprise and amusement, momentarily at a loss for words. The mother, standing nearby, seems slightly flustered by the conversation. Her hand lifts to her chin as if she's unsure how to respond, her cheeks showing a faint blush of embarrassment. The father, standing beside her, lets out a small, good-natured laugh and replies warmly, "I'll try my best." His tone is gentle and his smile softens the atmosphere. Between them stands their son, tall and composed, watching the exchange with a faint, knowing smile, like someone who understands both his parents far too well.